child's scream echoes through a stone corridor, swallowed instantly by the thick walls of Ash Hollow Orphanage. No one comes. No one remembers the face of the child, or the shape of the figure that vanished with her. Locals whisper of shadows that linger long after the sun sets, of cries that pierce the night only to dissolve in silence. What happened in that place has been scrubbed from every ledger, hidden behind the antiseptic cleanliness of clerical records, forgotten like a sin the world was never meant to recall. And yet, if you listen closely, the orphanage still speaks. Nestled in the jagged valleys of Colorado, Ash Hollow was a town with an uneasy quiet, built atop scars older than any settler dared name. In 1893, the orphanage opened, a Gothic monolith of gray stone, perched over the town like a patient predator. Families sent their children under the guise of pious charity. The priests promised care, the town promised opportunity. But the orphanage was more than it seemed. A repository of forgotten histories, a place where the town's darkest impulses could be exercised in the guise of divine morality. Every window was a pair of eyes watching, yet never seeing. Every corridor a mouth, whispering what was forbidden. The caretakers, 2 sisters, estranged from their own family, rumored to have ties to itinerant mystics, were the first adults who treated the children differently. They administered discipline with an unnerving calm, their hands precise, their eyes unreadable. Locals claimed the sisters also served other things behind the counter of the orphanage's small tavern. Potions, powders, strange tinctures whose effects could not be named. Children reported visions, hallways bending, whispers behind walls, faces in mirrors that weren't theirs. And still, parents continued to send their children. Institutional control was subtle, quiet, irresistible. No one noticed what vanished in the night. It was late October when a boy named Samuel, 7 years old, quiet, observant, was never seen again. One evening, he went to the garden to pick herbs for the sisters and simply disappeared. The staff claimed he ran away. Townspeople murmured. His bed remained untouched, his shoes left in perfect alignment. The sense of absence weighed on the orphanage like a stone. Children spoke of shadows coiling around him, guiding him into the woods. One whispered that Samuel had followed the wrong light. But no one pressed for answers. In Ash Hollow, the truth was a dangerous, fluid thing. Behind the orphanage's locked doors, records suggest, the sisters performed ceremonies that blurred religion, alchemy, and superstition. Candles burned endlessly, black wax dripping onto carved sigils in the floor. The children were instructed to kneel, to chant, to witness. Occasionally, one child would scream, a sound that would vanish as if swallowed by stone. The priests never entered the rooms where the sisters moved, and the townspeople accepted their absence as pious discretion. Yet, every missing child left a mark, invisible yet heavy, as if the air itself remembered their disappearance. In 1902, a diary was discovered, written by Reverend Whitmore, Ash Hollow's first minister. Its pages were filled with meticulous observations. The sisters' ministrations yield results. Children speak in tongues, see what should not be seen, vanish without trace. I am complicit by silence. The language is clinical, almost cold, yet beneath it pulses a deep horror, an acknowledgement of forces beyond human comprehension. Whitmore's words hint at a broader corruption, a network of authority complicit in hiding the inexplicable. What began as charity became a theater of psychological terror, a laboratory of obedience and fear. Behind the orphanage, the forest rose like a wall of twisted pines. Children whispered of trees that shifted their shape at night, branches curling like fingers reaching for those who strayed too far. Some claimed the forest spoke, murmuring secrets about the sisters, the town, and the vanished. One girl, Margaret, described a glow beneath the roots, a soft red luminescence, and voices coaxing her deeper. When she ran, she found herself back at the orphanage gates, as though the forest had guided her, testing her obedience. Ash Hollow's woods were alive in a way no settler dared document, a sentient veil between the town and the unseen horrors. The sisters' cellar was a labyrinth of stone corridors lined with jars of preserved herbs, small bones, and liquids that shimmered unnaturally. Children were punished there, left alone with echoes that seemed to come from the walls themselves. Some swore the walls whispered their sins, exposing them, judging them, shaping them. The sound was subtle at first, a sibilant hiss, but soon it became intelligible, a language that made them forget themselves. A boy named Thomas scratched at the floor one night, desperate to escape, only to hear the whispers calling his name from the darkness below, promising he would never be forgotten if he obeyed. Ash Hollow's townspeople, ever polite and religious, carried a quiet weight of complicity. Farmers, shopkeepers, and even law enforcement turned blind eyes when children disappeared. Gossip framed the sisters as eccentric, perhaps dangerous, but harmless. Some claimed the sisters' rituals ensured the town's survival, that prosperity and protection demanded sacrifices never spoken aloud. The psychological tension was constant. Fear masked as normality, horror dressed as duty. No outsider could understand the unspoken contract between Ash Hollow and the orphanage, an agreement that left children as offerings, remembered only by those who dared not speak. In 1905, Reverend Whitmore's own children vanished one by one, the last nights of their screams recorded in his diary. It was said he begged the sisters, promising gold, land, even his soul. But the sisters were indifferent. Their work transcended piety, transcended morality. Whitmore's grief turned into obsession, each missing child a mirror of the town's dark heart. In the end, he vanished as well, found years later wandering the forest muttering incantations, claiming he had seen the children become something else. The line between grief, madness, and the supernatural blurred, leaving only echoes of a father's despair. The orphanage's chapel was modest, yet disturbing in its symmetry. Stained glass depicted biblical scenes, yet closer inspection revealed subtle distortions. Eyes following the visitor, faces twisted in silent screams, symbols etched into the woodwork invisible at first glance. The sisters performed weekly services there, mixing prayer with obscure rituals that bound the children's minds, shaping perception and obedience. Attending townspeople reported feelings of vertigo, sudden headaches, and inexplicable nausea, signs of psychological manipulation that no medicine could explain. The chapel, a supposed sanctuary, became a chamber of unseen terror. Once a year, the sisters hosted what they called the Feast of Remembrance. No town record survived of it. Children were instructed to serve, dressed in ceremonial garb, yet the adults were absent, leaving only the sisters and the shadows. Candles burned with an unnatural blue flame, and the food seemed ordinary but carried hallucinations. Visions of vanished children, animals moving with human intent, the forest bleeding into the hall. Those who partook of the feast spoke of time bending, of themselves observing events they could not influence. One boy recalled a mirror showing a version of himself as an old man, pleading silently for release. The orphanage had a distinct smell, one that children could never fully describe. A mixture of damp stone, burnt herbs, and something metallic, like blood long dried. At first, it was faint, almost imperceptible. But over weeks, it grew oppressive, filling the hallways and rooms until the children couldn't breathe without tasting it. Some vomited, others wept silently. The scent was not merely physical. It carried memory and intent. Whispers said the sisters captured the essence of the missing children within the walls themselves, using smell to tether fear and obedience. The more one inhaled, the more one remembered things one did not live through. The nursery, where the youngest children slept, was the most terrifying. Toys moved on their own, and shadows gathered even in the brightest daylight. Lullabies sung by invisible voices resonated in the ears of the children, urging them to obey. When a child cried for their parent, the walls answered instead, echoing with distorted voices promising safety in silence. Some children claimed the shadows could mimic parents, calling to them, coaxing them into corners where they vanished for hours or days, only to return altered, quieter, fearful, eyes unnaturally bright. The line between imagination and possession was gone. Ash Hollow's town leaders, the clergy, and the orphanage staff were part of what Reverend Whitmore later called the Council of Silence. A pact had formed over decades, The children's disappearances remained uninvestigated, their screams ignored, their existence documented only in coded ledger entries. The council justified it as protection, spiritual, communal, even national. But beneath the rhetoric lay a darker truth. Control, power, and the slow, inexorable shaping of young minds to unseen ends. The town itself had become an instrument of the sisters' rituals, its streets a maze guiding children like offerings to a hidden altar. On the third floor, a single room was lined with mirrors from floor to ceiling. Children dared not enter alone, for the mirrors reflected not the present but possibilities. Their deaths, their futures, or worse, their souls twisted into unrecognizable forms. The sisters used the room to test obedience. One boy, witnessing a version of himself begging for release, obeyed instructions perfectly for weeks. Another screamed until silence became his only companion. The mirrors were portals or perhaps windows, and what gazed back from them was not human. By 1910, reports surfaced of a light that burned through the orphanage at night, blue and cold, searing the eyes of those who dared watch. The sisters moved through it effortlessly. Children could not. Many reported visions of the missing. Eyes pressed to the glass of eternity, calling for salvation, mouths moving in silent plea. Some children emerged scarred by the light, their memories fragmented, their minds tethered to the sisters' will. It was no ordinary illumination. It was a psychic instrument, bending perception and time, shaping obedience through terror and awe. In 1915, the sisters performed what would be their final, secretive ritual. The diary of Reverend Whitmore recounts the event. The children, lined in the courtyard, chanted words they could not comprehend. The sisters moved with deliberate grace, instruments in hand, symbols etched into the ground. As the ritual reached its zenith, the forest itself seemed to inhale. Children disappeared in waves, shadows stretching from their bodies into the earth. Whitmore witnessed it all and was driven mad. The town awoke the next day to the orphanage silent, its children gone, its doors sealed, and the sisters vanished. After the orphanage closed, Ash Hollow's population dwindled. Families moved away, whispering of curses and lost children. The forest encroached upon streets once filled with laughter. Some claimed the sisters remained in the woods, immortal, guardians of the unseen forces they had summoned. Others believed the town itself had been consumed, a nexus of suppressed terror. Every few years, a child would vanish nearby, and locals would murmur that Ash Hollow was still feeding on innocence, its hunger deferred but eternal. Today, the ruins of Ash Hollow stand as a monument to what was hidden, a place where wind whistles through empty corridors like the cries of the missing. Paranormal investigators report distorted recordings, disembodied whispers, and shadows that move with intent. Scholars speculate, but the truth remains. Some knowledge is forbidden, some rituals leave scars across generations, and some towns are never truly abandoned. Ash Hollow is remembered in fragments, whispers, and terror. A reminder that even forgotten events can haunt the living, and some sins refuse to die.